Good morning, everyone. Welcome to TTG's latest Facebook Live. I'm Maddie Barber, I'm the Special Projects Editor at TTG, and I'm joined today by Alison Lee, who is the Destination Trainer at Tourism Australia. We're also joined by Donna Chacha from Visit Canberra and Annabelle Sweetman from Tourism Tasmania. Thank you for joining me today, everyone. Last month, we ran a series of 4 Australia-themed masterclasses covering an introduction to selling Australia, and how to sell Sydney and Melbourne, Queensland and Western Australia, and also South Australia and the Northern Territory. So you can catch up with those in the videos section of the TTG Facebook page. Today we will be focusing on the remaining 2 Australian regions, which are Tasmania and the Australian Capital Territory, which is Canberra. We're going to be outlining the key highlights of Canberra and Tasmania. We're going to be talking a bit about Australian history and culture in the 2 regions as well. Nature and wildlife that the visitors can expect to see while visiting. And we're also going to be talking a bit about food and wine, and incredible local produce that clients can taste during their stay. If you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to type them in the comments section, and I'll ask them live to these guys and hopefully get a good answer for you. So Ali, should we start with you? Some agents may not be as familiar with these 2 Australian destinations as the other regions. And where are they in relation to the other states, and how can clients get to each of them from the UK?
So we've got, firstly, thank you so much for having us, and thanks everyone for tuning in. So we're lucky enough to have these guys joining us down in Australia. So it's their evening down there, and our early morning. But I've just highlighted here in my background image where Tasmania and the Australian Capital Territory are. So as you can see, like in Australian terms, they're quite small, but in comparison to the rest of the world, they're not so much. But Canberra is so fully encompassed by New South Wales, as you can see. And then Tasmania is the island state down the bottom of Australia. So like Maddie said, they are perhaps slightly lesser known than the other regions, but they've just got so much to offer. So I'm excited to, chat to Donna and Annabelle, and as they explain to you all about these incredible experiences. They're both really easily accessible in terms of flights and international gateways. So they've got multiple different airlines and flights daily via our major gateways. So whether it's Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra has daily international flights via Sydney. So you can actually, Singapore Airlines actually does it so that you can fly into Canberra on 1 ticket, but stop in Sydney along the way. So it's kind of 2 cities, 1 ticket and 1 fare, which is a great option if you're doing, a multi-state itinerary. And then also if you're going into Canberra on an international ticket, you don't have to clear customs in Sydney if Canberra is your final stop as well. So it's worth remembering that. Tassie also has multiple flights internationally via those major gateways, so into Hobart or Launceston. And that's, via those major gateways, so Melbourne, Sydney or Brisbane. Domestically, they're really easily accessible as well. So if you guys are building multi-state itineraries, it's super easy to connect Canberra or Tasmania to any of the other states or territories because of those domestic routes as well, which is all around. And also self-driving, it's super easy as well. Australian Capital Territory, so Canberra is in a great location, as you can see, to self-drive. And we'll touch on that a bit later, I'm sure. And Tasmania actually has the Spirit of Tasmania, which is a car ferry between Victoria and Tasmania. So that kind of links it up there as well. So if your clients are doing a bit of a road trip, that's a good option as well.
Great, thanks. I love the nickname Tassie. It's brilliant. Cool. So the answer to that famous quiz question that's it's answered incorrectly in pub quizzes is Canberra is the capital of Australia. Donna, can you give us an insight into what life is like in the nation's capital, and what visitors can expect to experience when they're on a stay there?
Yeah, thanks, Maddie. Yeah, not only is Canberra Australia's national capital city, it's also home to the Australian story. So you can, which you can be discovered in our national attractions. But the lifestyle in Canberra it's pretty relaxed. You know, we're a compact city and it's easy to get around, but also we're a planned, modern city, zero congestion and clean, fresh air. So it's a beautiful city to live in. But the diversity of experiences is in easy reach of each other. You know, everything is within 10, 15 minutes drive of each other. You know, museums and galleries that house the Australia's treasures and stories, foodie and shopping precincts, outdoor adventures, our beautiful wine region, and nature and wildlife are on our doorstep. So being so compact, you can pack a lot into a visit to Canberra. But, you know, we're sport for choice here with so many things to see and do. But the same goes for tourists as well when they visit.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And Annabelle, if an agent is unfamiliar with Tasmania, what are some of the highlights and activities they can recommend to their clients?
Yeah, thanks, Maddie. And just to follow on from some of Ali's points, just to put Tassie in context, is that we are the little island at the base of mainland Australia. We've only got 500,000 in terms of population, and we're around the size of Ireland. It always just helps people sort of imagine how big we are. But we've also got 40% of the island is protected. So whether that's World Heritage or reserves and parks. So we're super lucky to have greenery right out our back door, and two great gateways of Hobart and Launceston. Hobart in the south being the capital and Launceston in the north. And we're so fortunate to have all the sort of different amazing opportunities around us in terms of our wilderness and wildlife. We're home to the endemic Tassie devil, and others such as the Tasmanian spotted quoll, and then we've got plenty of beautiful wildlife which we'll tell you about. But people can come here for purely alone for the food and beverage. We're so fortunate now to have such an extraordinary array of chefs and fresh produce on the island, and our history and heritage dates back and around colonial and historic times when the convicts were here, and buildings to match. So it's a stunning feast for the eyes in terms of scenery, whether it's in the cities or out in the wilderness and the parks areas. We've also got amazing adventure experiences, including things like golfing, fishing, and canyoning, all sorts of amazing experiences that some people may not know about. So there's so many highlights, and what I often like to think about in terms of Tasmania is that we cover off on some of the P's. So the friendly people, the proximity in terms of how easy you can get to things, the produce, and the place, the sense of place and the feeling that you get when you're here in Tassie. It's something that it's really hard to explain, but it's a beautiful feeling of community and rugged beauty and calm nature all mixed together.
Yeah. Okay, great. And you mentioned wilderness in there. Once we're able to travel again after the coronavirus lockdown, do you think this is something that UK travellers will be seeking out as part of their holidays? Ali, maybe shed some light on that one?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, I think that after this prolonged period indoors, particularly over here in the UK, we project that travellers will want to visit locations where, that are known for that natural beauty, and I guess have a new appreciation for outdoor adventure and open spaces. I know I certainly do, and I'm already, looking for holidays that, combine the great outdoors. And Australia in particular just has so much to offer when it comes to, outdoors and open spaces. So whether that is road trips or walking holidays, there just might be that trend to those holidays where the traveller, I guess, is in control of their own social distancing. Yeah.
Okay, great. And Donna, what does Canberra have in store for people that do want to get out into the great outdoors and experience some of Australia's nature?
Yeah, so Canberra's surrounded entirely by natural parkland. So more than 50% of the ACT is bushland. So, making Canberra a great, nature lover's paradise. So you're likely to come across native animals in our wide open spaces. You know, kangaroos, I know you probably hear about it, but, you know, we do have kangaroos that are in our neighbourhoods, you know, because we are surrounded by that bushland. And we're often referred to as a city in a park, or the bush capital, because we are set, the city is set amongst the bushland. But, you know, we at the heart of Canberra is Lake Burley Griffin, and that divides the north and the south of the city. And around Lake Burley Griffin is the, you know, galleries and museums, but parks, there's just like wide open spaces, there's walking tracks, there's cycling paths. Yeah, it's just it's a beautiful space to get to. You know, us locals love to get down there on the weekend and do the 5-kilometre bridge to bridge walk. But, you know, you're tackling the cyclists or the walkers and dogs, and it's great. It's really a nice space. But just 45-minute drive from the city centre, you'll find the largest nature area, and that's called Tidbinbilla Nature Reserve. And here you'll spot Australian wildlife such as kangaroos and koalas and emus in their natural habitat. But it's also a beautiful place to, you know, there's over 20 hiking trails out there in the reserve. And of course, you know, they range in difficulty from the very easy to the, you know, long and challenging uphill hikes. But, you know, those ones are great to take in the beautiful scenery of the area too. But, you know, so you can go at your own pace and explore, or you can take a ranger guided tour, or there's tour operators that offer half-day and full-day tours that depart from the city as well. Or there's, you know, you can book a tour with Dawa Indigenous tours and learn about about the Aboriginal culture and history of the area. You know, connect with the land, try some bush tucker, and learn the Ngunnawal language. So it's a really great way to spend a day exploring, yeah, the beautiful outdoors and scenery of the area.
Okay, great. And Ali mentioned earlier that you know, these two regions are really great for self-drive types of itineraries. What makes Canberra such a great self-drive destination?
Yeah, so I guess, you know, talking about Tidbinbilla, you know, that if you base yourself in Canberra, you can, you know, spend the day out in Tidbinbilla. But, you know, it's also great for the, you know, getting out to explore the nearby regions as well. So we've got the, you know, New South Wales South Coast, the Snowy Mountains, and the inland tablelands. But, you know, we've got, it's such a diverse nature playground around us. So the Snowy Mountains, you've got Mount Kosciuszko, which is Australia's highest peak. You've got the South Coast, they're pristine, you know, coastline, uncrowded beaches, you can get seafood, you know, whale watching down that way. Fabulous, you know, wine growing regions, there's charming historic towns, and it's all within 2.5 hours drive away. So it's really accessible, you know, to do these self-driving routes. But there's many, you know, touring routes that you can do, but one that I'll recommend is the Capital Coast and Country touring route. So it's the perfect, I guess, inspiration guide to what's in our region.
Great. And Annabelle, coming back to you, you mentioned earlier that Tasmania is also great for nature and wilderness. What makes it so special?
Well, Maddie, I could talk about this for a long time. I moved here 15 years ago for the nature and wildlife specifically, coming from the concrete jungle of Melbourne that I love. But I, you know, every weekend head out to some new natural place with my family to do a bushwalk, or to find a beach to go for a surf on. We're so lucky here that we have such wide open spaces and big skies that wherever you go, you feel like you've got this extraordinary sense of freedom. And I think I mentioned we've got 19 national parks spread across the state, and a whole range of walks, whether it's a 5-10 minute short walk through a rainforest, or a 7 to 10 day multi-day walk that's either in the southwest or the northeast of the state. So we actually are a walker's paradise, and a lot of people come here specifically to experience our extraordinary wilderness, whether it be the East Coast, the Freycinet Peninsula, Maria Island, the Bay of Fires areas, all with stunning uninhabited areas and beaches that you feel like you can have all to yourself. Or whether it's over to the western area where you've got the more rugged areas of Cradle Mountain, Strawn Village, and the south into the southwest wilderness area, which is uninhabited for miles. So you can sort of pick your adventure, but also pick your style of wilderness or experience that you'd like to have. So whether it's getting up close and personal to some wildlife at a wildlife sanctuary, or to experience it in the wild, there's options for everyone that are spread across the state. So we're super fortunate. I've got Mount Wellington right behind me in my backyard in Hobart, and feel super fortunate to be able to go out for a bike ride or a walk, or just to soak up the beautiful fresh air and the views out to the southwest. So it's a feast for the eyes every corner you turn, and so we feel really blessed to have this at our fingertips.
Great. And what's the best type of itinerary to build Tasmania into for UK travellers?
Well, similarly to the ACT, we highly suggest self-drive. Ali mentioned before that you can bring your car across on the Spirit of Tasmania, but it's such an easy way to fly across, arrive into Hobart or Launceston in particular, pick up a hire car or a motorhome and just head off. And within minutes of leaving the airport, you can be in a tiny village, finding a little Airbnb or place to camp, or a lovely hotel or motel. So we highly suggest doing that. And for long haul travellers, maybe doing a 3, 5 or 7 day add-on to a mainland itinerary is definitely achievable. And the beauty is that you can choose a region, or you can actually get around Tasmania in a good 7 to 10 day itinerary and experience so much of the island. So self-drive is definitely the way to go. And taking a map with you and exploring the little side roads along the way, choosing where you'd like to spend a few nights, enjoying what those regions have to offer. So yeah, that's the way.
Great, thanks. Before we move on, we've had a question come in from Dave Warman. He's asking, is Australia accepting British tourism yet? Ali, would you like to have that one?
I assume he means whether the borders are open, which they're not, unfortunately. But we don't have any indication yet of when they will open. But don't worry, as soon as we do know, we will definitely let all the agents know and everyone as soon as we hear. But anyone listening though, just keep an eye on our consumer website, which is directly also linked to the Home Affairs website, which is the best source of information in terms of when we start accepting travellers again. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, and if anyone else watching has any questions, feel free to type them in the comment section and we can ask them live. Cool. So moving on to the next section, which is all about history and culture. Donna, you mentioned that Canberra is the city to visit to learn about the story of Australia. But what exactly does the destination have in store for culture vultures and history buffs?
Yeah, for those with a passion for art, culture and history, exploring the national attractions is a must. So Canberra's home to the most significant and important attractions, where you can discover more about Australia's history and way of life. So the country's national treasures and collections are housed in the national attractions and museums and archives, and they document our story of our ancient Indigenous past, our colonial history, and through to the modern multicultural country of today. So you can get a snapshot of the Australian way of life, I guess, through many of these attractions. So we have the National Museum of Australia. So, it's an amazing place to view to explore the rich and diverse stories of Australia and its people. Then at the National Gallery of Australia, here you can see the largest collection of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artworks in the world. There's over 7,500 artworks there. Parliament House, you can watch democracy in action. The Australian War Memorial is the place where you can discover Australian experiences of war and connect with the stories of the people and events that shaped Australia. But that's just naming, a few of our national attractions, because we have quite a few to explore here.
Okay, thanks. And Annabelle, I believe Tasmania also offers really great insight into Australian history and culture. What are some of the cultural experiences that clients can plan into their trip?
Thanks, Maddie. Yeah, absolutely. And people often associate Tasmania with Australia's convict history, which is, you know, very much a part of the Australian story as well. So Port Arthur Historic Centre is probably, or site, is one of our major attractions, and is actually a really beautiful location. I'd love to visit there when I've got friends and family visiting, because it really tells a story, but it's also encapsulated by the sort of spirit and the environment, because it's so beautiful, but it tells you such a story and evokes such a feeling of how things must have been back in the day. So then, you know, you might experience Launceston or Hobart, where there's some extraordinary Georgian buildings, or colonial era miners' cottages dotted around the city, which are a feast for the eyes, because they're sort of, you know, paint such a picture of how these cities began and the culture and history that we carry on with us today. So it might be that you're dining in a beautiful old Georgian home, or experiencing a small gallery in an old miner's cottage. But we've also got some amazing contemporary galleries and museums as well, one of which many people have probably heard of, called MONA, the Museum of Old and New Art, which is a private collection, and we are so fortunate to have that here in Hobart. And I think it's put us on the map in some senses, and draws people from all around the world to experience it. And it's such an extraordinary cultural immersion, and food and wine experience as well. So that's definitely a must for itineraries. We've got some amazing Indigenous experiences as well, which help tell the story of the Indigenous history. And one in particular in the Northwest Coast is a beautiful experience called the Wukalina Walk, and it's owned and operated by the Palawa people. And they take you on this journey up around the Bay of Fires in the Northwest Coast, and talk you through, you know, what life was like and what they ate, and the stories of the dreaming and so forth. It's a really extraordinary experience. And there's also these are highlighted in our Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery, and the Queen Victoria Art Gallery up in Launceston as well. So wherever people land, there's certainly museums, galleries, small ones dotted around the state that people can explore.
Yeah, sounds really interesting. Great. So now I feel like we can't have an Australian masterclass without asking about food and wine, or culinary experiences, because I know for me, food is one of the most exciting aspects of holiday. Donna, can I come to you first and ask about what food experiences there are in Canberra?
Like you, Maddie, my holidays are all around food and wine as well. But you know, here in Canberra, we're a city of foodies, and we love our coffee here in Canberra too. So you know, you can experience, you know, hatted, awarded restaurants, casual eateries, you know, food trucks to underground bars, you know, wineries and breweries. You know, there's something for everyone here. But, you know, we love our farmers market, our weekend farmers market. So the Capital Region farmers market is the best place to sample and buy direct from the growers and the farmers. So there's loads of local and seasonal produce and gourmet foods there. And then a Sunday tradition in Canberra is visiting the old bus depot markets. So you can still get local produce there, but it's more of a, it's got, you know, arts and crafts, there's jewelry, there's fashion, there's local artists and creators, you know, selling their wares at this market. But it's got a really nice vibe there. There's live music. Yeah, it's just a nice way to spend a Sunday morning. And it's also a great place to pick up a local souvenir too. You know, the fresh produce here in Canberra. So Pialago Estate is it's just 10 minutes from the city centre, and it's offers, you know, this great food, wine and lifestyle destination. So as well as the delicious food, you can take a cooking class there. You can do a wine tasting masterclass. all sorts of other lifestyle workshops they have on offer, but you can take a tour of the estate as well. So there's an olive grove, a vineyard, an orchard, and a market garden set on 28 hectares. It's stunning. It's really beautiful, beautiful space. But, you know, it's also a wonderful place just to enjoy a long, lazy lunch, followed by a stroll around the estate as well. But, you know, perhaps one of Canberra's best kept secrets is the Canberra District wine region. So 140 vineyards and more than 30 cellar doors, all within 35-minute drive of the city centre. So the boutique cellar doors, you know, they're offering, you know, opportunity to meet the winemakers and the owners, you know, share a yarn with them and taste their local creations. But our region here it's known for the cool climate wine style. So Shiraz and Riesling being two of the popular styles produced in the region. And also in that region, you know, there's a lot of artisans as well out in the region. So yeah, it's a great for, you know, the local produce and yeah, food and wine.
Yeah, plenty to explore and eat and drink. Cool. So Annabelle, coming to you next. What are some of the best food and drink experiences in Tasmania?
I think, you know, people love to come here and meet the maker. It's such an extraordinary experience to be able to go to somewhere like Bruny Island Cheese and meet the cheesemaker, or to go and do a cooking school at Fat Pig Farm and meet Matthew Effens, or to go to the Salamanca market on a Saturday morning, which is one of my favourites, to head down, and I usually stock up on my local produce for the week and veggies and so forth. But to meet the local distiller who's trying to sell his wares, or the apple orchardist who's on the corner selling bags of apples for $2.50. So it's about having those interactions, and also in the restaurants and cafes as well. Sometimes the chefs might come out and, you know, chat to you about where the food has come from. So we feel really proud of our food. We've got such an extraordinary environment to grow the food, and there's such a sort of a feeling of sense of provenance around Tasmania and what we grow and how we do it. So we also are very fortunate to have markets, Salamanca, as I mentioned, every Saturday, but also in the north in Launceston they have harvest markets, and plenty of them dotted around the state as well. A couple of my favourite experiences are heading to the east coast, or even down to the waterfront, either in Launceston or Hobart, or in one of the small fishing villages, to have a fix of fish and chips, really good fresh fish, and, you know, enjoy it with a glass of local Chardonnay or Pinot Gris. We are very fortunate to have an amazing climate down here in order to make cool climate wines. Our Pinot Noir is we're very well known for, our sparkling wine, and some other varietals, red and white. But also, I think I mentioned some of our whiskey, gin and vodka. We've actually got a few established trails, so wine trails, whiskey, craft beer and cider trails as well. We're doing some amazing things with gin and vodka. I tasted a Sheep's Way vodka the other night, which was just delicious. So there's a lot of innovation going on down here. There are chefs moving from the mainland and from overseas to be here to work with our producers and our food. But there's also very simple little experiences you can have to either do a cooking school or enjoy an oyster fresh from the sea. So, you know, you feel like there's a whole range of options for visitors.
Yeah, some great innovative options in there as well. Sounds really, really interesting. Great. So my final question for all three of you actually is going to be, there's so much information out there. How do you recommend agents, you know, stay up to date with what's going on in Canberra and Tasmania and Australia as a whole? Ali, shall I come to you first for that?
Yeah, I mean, I really encourage agents, if they haven't already, to jump on our online training platform, the Aussie Specialist Program, because there's a module on Australian Capital Territory and on Tasmania. So if you're not too familiar with either of these regions, that's a great place to start. So there's modules and fact sheets and stuff to yeah, just increase your knowledge. I know that, obviously the borders aren't open yet, but, by the time that they do, I'm sure you're going to have these fresh inquiries coming in, and Australia will be welcoming you with welcome arms when the time is right. So if you do find yourselves with a little bit of more time now, then definitely start by jumping on there. Also, our consumer website, australia.com, has some great resources for inspiration, as well as a list of virtual tours you can do. Some of those museums that the guys mentioned, you can do virtual tours around there, so you can get kind of a taste of it to recommend to your clients as well. So check that one up, and we'll also put alerts on there. We're staying in close contact with the government, so as soon as we get word about travel restrictions and things, then we'll post it up straight away and let everybody know.
And Annabelle, what about for Tasmania?
So we've got a great site. It's tassietrade.com.au, and we're super excited because we've just released a few new trade resources on there, one being the professional travel guide, which has got some really great information around itineraries and things to do and regions and so forth. And we've also just put out a lovely sort of video teaser. We launched it today, actually. So if you go to tassietrade.com.au, you can find more there. There's also our consumer site, discovertasmania.com from the UK. And we'd encourage you to use our social handles as well, which is basically @Tasmania for Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, great, thanks. And Donna, what about for Canberra? How can agents get more information about your region?
Yeah, so the same through our trade website, which is our corporate website. It's a bit long-winded, so I know you've got our website details there, so you can share. But on the trade website, you'll find product information, fact sheets, and itinerary suggestions. But the consumer site also, visit canberra.com.au, is great for inspiration. There's articles that the team put up regularly, so it's a good way of keeping up to date and getting that inspiration to see what to include in an itinerary to the ACT, and of course our social media channels as well. So just @Visit Canberra is the handle there too.
Great, thanks. And yes, I can see that my colleague has posted the relevant websites and the links in the comments section for you below. So yeah, if you want to find out more, the links are there for you. So anyone that's watching, if you do have any more questions, feel free to type them in the comment section, and we'll get back to you after this session. I think that's all we've got time for today. Big thank you to Ali and Donna and Annabelle for joining me today and for sharing such valuable information that agents can use to sell, and hopefully soon UK travellers will be able to return to Australia, fingers crossed. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ellie. Thanks, Ellie.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.